Gonna be honest, when I was offered the 2025 Origin to test out, I wasn't overly excited. It's kind of marketed as a beginner wing, sort of a lower price point, entry level wing. The style of riding I do is very much based around going fast, nailing tacks and jibes, playing around with some other little free riding sort of things. And every now and then when a bay wave will pop up, getting on some nice wind chop and having a bit of a surf around. Yeah, the Origin, I couldn't say that I was super excited to pump it up and take it out in the water, but I was surprised. And before we jump into that, I wanted to give a bit of context for this review. So I've used a range of wings over the last 3-4 years of winging. I'll put these up on the screen here just to give you a bit of context of the types of wings that I've used in the past and how I'm comparing this wing to those ones that I've used. First thing I wanted to answer was, how does it feel? How does it feel to ride? What does it offer relative to other wings on the market? For those that are familiar with the V1 Strike and the V2 Strike from F1, this is a really familiar wing. It is super light in the hand. It's really intuitive to use and it flags out really well. So it does lend itself to that surf style for those that sort of like going upwind, turning around and surfing some waves downwind. I guess the other situation I could see is someone that is using the original V1 Origin and they're looking at whether they get the V2 Origin. I'm not overly convinced. I think there's a good amount of progression, and if it's the style of wing that you really like, then they've definitely gone from what the Strike V1 was and moved closer to what the Strike V2 was. It still has awesome low end. It still is super intuitive to pump, super intuitive to use. It's really light and flags out really well. But I think the improvement over the V1 was its stability at speed. So as you start getting faster, you're not having to fight when it stalls. It doesn't stall as often at speed, but the downside that I do see, it's not as good as a Strike and it's not as good as other wings at speed. So if you were chasing that specific characteristic that they have improved from the V1, then there's better wings out there for that. But if you're looking for a wing at a really good price that flags out really well, it's really hard to beat the Origin for its price point and for its stability flagging out. It is an awesome wing to flag out. And because you have the option to interchange handles with the F1 interchangeable handle system, you can actually make it even better at flagging out through putting a light handle, so like the hybrid handle or the soft handle on the backhand, still have the hard handle on the front if you want, and it reduces that swing weight from the handle, which causes the wing to drop down when you're flagging it out on a wave, or part of the reason that it drops down when you flag it out on a wave. So relative to the V1 Origin, there's improvements there. The panel layout just means that the pressure through the wing is distributed in a more even fashion, which is similar to what we've been seeing with the new Strikes, and it's definitely a welcome improvement. I wouldn't be rushing to upgrade my V1 to the 2025 version if I had the Origin. If it came up as a good price or you were just ready for a new wing, I'd definitely get the new one over the old one, which often is the case. Just want to reinforce who this wing is for. And I think for me, it is a beginner wing, but it's also a wing for the type of person that's really focused on getting upwind so they can turn around and go downwind. And because it's so light, it just gets out of the way nice and easily. And as I said, you can swap those handles out and make it even lighter again. So it's a really good option for that style of riding. I wouldn't recommend it for those that want to do freestyle or that want to go really, really fast, because it's not going to have that stiffness and that real pull that gets you up into the air. And it's not going to have that really nice stability at speed. It's definitely an improvement on the V1 Origin, but it's nowhere near as good at speed as the Strike, which is really made for that style of riding. Speaking of the Strike, I have my first impressions of the Strike V5 Alula edition up on my channel, and you can go and have a look through the link here.